launched the strategic and economic dialogue when they realized back in 2006 that the China relationship was much more complicated than just trade, that we had a whole bunch of things to deal with them, and it was not just a trade relationship. Well, it may be a good thing, but it does appear as if the second Trump administration, I don't know how many years later, is realizing that it's a very complicated relationship with China, and it does not pay for the U.S. to focus only on trade when the two biggest economies, two major military powers in the world, face off against each other. We should be talking on a whole lot of levels and not do what we've done right now, which is effectively an embargo on China.
There are a lot of terrible traits that define the MAGA movement, but I think hypocrisy stands out above the rest, the shameless lying that they are willing to commit to. They espouse one thing and act on another, and with so much news over the past couple of days, I think we missed one of the best examples, or really worst examples of this, which took place on Easter Sunday and was caught at Donald Trump's golf course, the scene of the crime for many scandals for Trump. We're going to get into it all and how it is completely backfiring and exposing one of his worst lies. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we can get into this article breaking down the nonsense taking place at Donald Trump's golf club and why it is so hypocritical, first I want to see a video from yesterday that kind of got this hypocrisy started. Donald Trump talking about President Biden.
You remember when the bunny took Joe Biden out? He's not taking Trump out. Anyway, that was a beautiful moment when the bunny saved Joe Biden.
I talked about this during the campaign whenever VP Harris was really surging, or whenever she delivered just a brutal blow to Trump, he would always start talking about President Biden again. I think he really longs for the days when all he had to do was attack President Biden, when all he had to do was lie about him. And so we see that happening a lot. Now he's always bringing up Joe Biden. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, except for the man's brain is broken, and he is obsessive with the only person who was ever able to humiliate and defeat him politically. And so he keeps coming back to that. And it reminds me of last year when Easter fell on the same day of Trans Day of Visibility. And Donald Trump and the rest of MAGA lost their minds, but they also lost their minds over something Democrats did this Easter Sunday, and Carolyn Levitt was talking about that right here.
They should know the truth about this man. He is an illegal alien, a foreign terrorist, and a criminal MS-13 gang member who violated our country's laws by coming here in the first place. And shame on Senator Chris Van Hollen and the entire Democrat Party, who wasted Easter Sunday going on every television show in the country to advocate for the return of an illegal criminal gang member.
So it's somehow a crime for Democrats to talk about protecting the human rights of a man on Easter, Carolyn. You wear that giant crucifix all the time. What do you think Jesus would have done? Which side do you think he would be on illegally shipping people to El Salvadorian prisons or giving and treating people with human dignity? I don't think that's a tough call. So while Democrats were, oh no, such a shame, protecting a man's due process and his human dignity on Easter Sunday, what was Donald Trump doing? How is the great Christian man Donald Trump doing? Well, I don't know. He was spending his time doing exactly what runs counter to one of the most famous Bible verses. Take a look. I remember it saying something in the Bible about it being easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man, let alone the richest man in the world, to enter the kingdom of God. But Donald Trump doesn't read the scripture. Donald Trump doesn't read at all. So on Easter Sunday, Donald Trump was spending his time with the richest man in the world, but it wasn't just that. Instead of going to church, where was Donald Trump on a day that Joe Biden was in church when he was president? He was in church. What was Donald Trump doing? Trump skips church to go on unhinged Easter posting spree. Instead, president. Donald Trump had a lot to get off his chest on Easter Sunday. Trump went on another spiteful Truth Social posting spree, skipping church to spend Sunday at his Virginia golf club after attending an Easter service at the White House. The president posted over 20 times in the space of 9 hours, taking aim at radical left lunatics, China critics of his chaotic tariffs, and a federal judge who halted his deportations of Venezuelan migrants. So last year on Easter, it was the greatest crime in the world. Then Trans Day of Visibility fell on the same day of Easter. We saw Republicans say that it was a plot carried out by the Biden administration. Ooh, they're scheming to celebrate the dignity of an oppressed people. And Donald Trump goes golfing and it's silence. The man doesn't show up to church because I don't think he can cross the threshold without catching on fire, and nobody cares. And then he's posting about it. That's what he spends his time doing, golfing, thinking about Donald Trump and attacking people. Is that how we're supposed to celebrate Easter? I guess. Republicans don't care. That is the hypocrisy that is always baked in. It's the same hypocrisy that allows them to justify Donald Trump crashing the economy after promising that they were going to lower prices, and Nicole Wallace covered all of that in this clip right here.
And global security, a crush of alarming economic headlines today. The International Monetary Fund is warning of a global slowdown thanks to uncertainty generated by Donald Trump's on-again, off-again tariff regime. Washington Post reports this, quote, Trump's double-barreled tariff plan, a 10% tax on nearly everything the U.S. imports each year, plus significantly higher levies on goods from dozens of nations, will hurt the United States and its trading partners, the fund said. As we have reported in recent days and weeks, Trump-fueled uncertainty has led to enormous volatility in the markets. News today that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told investors that a trade war with China was unsustainable sent stocks soaring. The Dow Jones up about 1,000 points after markets plunged yesterday. The overall picture for the markets remains cloudy, though. The Wall Street Journal is reporting today that the Dow Jones is on track for its worst April since the Great Depression. Let that sink in. Since 1932. As for Donald Trump, he may be on track to be more than just a 21st century Herbert Hoover. Investors are worried that what Trump has set in motion is bigger than trade barriers. They're worried that he is unraveling an economic order that has for decades taken American stability for granted. The IMF's chief economist saying today, quote, the global economic system that has operated for the past 80 years is being reset. The U.S. effective tariff rate has now surged past levels reached at the turn of the 20th century. Beyond the tariffs themselves, the surge in policy uncertainty related to trade policy, but also more broadly, is a major driver of the economic outlook. Behind that, quote, surge in policy uncertainty, a phrase I'm going to steal, a Trump administration defined by its man-made instability. New York Times reporter Luke Broadwater writes in the Times today that, quote, the veneer of a more disciplined White House has begun to crack. And it's not just the uncertainty around Trump's imposing and then lifting tariffs that makes the Trump administration, and by extension, our entire country, look and feel unstable. It's not just Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's recklessness with military attack plans. It's not just the war with the country's oldest and richest university, which reportedly began with a letter from the Trump administration that was sent by mistake. It's not just Elon Musk's slashing and burning indiscriminately of government agencies, or Donald Trump taking to social media to target the head of the Federal Reserve. It's all of it. All these developments that paint the picture of a country, of a United States, that is increasingly, in the eyes of investors, a bad bet. Former Trump aide and investor Anthony Scaramucci told New York Magazine this, quote, I submit that irreparable damage has been done to the United States. If you are a Western ally, you're looking at the United States and saying the body politic is damaged. Now, it marks a dramatic change from even the first Trump administration. Bulwark writes it this way, quote, during Trump's first term, his defenders frequently pretended that his tweets and ad hoc political approach simply did not matter in the real world. It was a convenient fiction that markets largely indulged. Trump's griping about Powell didn't crash markets then. Now, however, Trump has cured investors of that cheerful nonchalance for his momentary grievance-filled whims. When he posts, the damage now appears in real time. Trump is Trump. It's too much to expect he'll ever learn his lesson about this or quench his desire to accumulate power. But for the rest of us, it's a bracing reminder. On the other side of all this, we do well to build the guardrails a little stronger and higher. The U.S. economy in danger of becoming a victim of Donald Trump's autocratic and erratic ambitions is where we start today with CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman, also joining us, staff writer for The Atlantic and co-author of the New York Times bestseller Abundance. Derek Thompson is back. Also with us for the hour, former Congressman, MSNBC political analyst David Jolly's here. So, Steve, as you're so expert at doing, widen the lens for us on today's headlines about what is increasingly the intersection between our economy and the world's economy and the current administration. Oh, you sighed.
You only give me small tasks, but I do want to personally and publicly thank you for having me on a day when the market was up, so that viewers did not think that I was only this terrible harbinger of doom that only comes on when the market is down 1,000 points.
Because it's always news. It's always a story, right?
It's a driver. Let me tell you what happened. And I wish I had more expertise on this. I've only read the transcript of what Scott Bessent told privately to a JP Morgan meeting 3 times to try to understand it. But the market was up a little bit after that big sell-off yesterday over that concern over Donald Trump possibly or thinking about replacing the Fed chair, Jay Powell, even though most think he doesn't have the legal right to do that. So it was up a little bit, but then it really got a charge when Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said that this relationship as it is now is unsustainable. That gave the market hope that there could be or would be some form of near-term or closer progress in these negotiations. And if you remember, that's what everybody is looking for, is at least some progress. Now, it's important what you said earlier, that progress means we only go back to these terrible 10% tariffs that are the source of the IMF marking down the U.S. economy. It's why everybody thinks the Fed has to come in and cut interest rates. And there's also a reason why we're going to people think there's going to be a recession in the United States. So it doesn't get a whole lot better, even if it gets better off of this terrible place we're in right now. But there was this interesting line I want to point out, Nicole, because I've read it a bunch of times. He said, now with China, we find there's this balance between economic and military that we've never seen before, which I raised my eyebrows about through the roof, because I remember you were still in the Bush administration, just I think as you were leaving, when Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, and the first president launched the Strategic and Economic Dialogue when they realized back in 2006 that the China relationship was much more complicated than just trade, that we had a whole bunch of things to deal with them, and it was not just a trade relationship. Well, it may be a good thing, but it does appear as if the second Trump administration, I don't know how many years later, is realizing that it's a very complicated relationship with China, and it does not pay for the U.S. to focus only on trade when the 2 biggest economies, 2 major military powers in the world face off against each other. We should be talking on a whole lot of levels and not do what we've done right now, which is effectively an embargo on China.
This is the most chaotic, corrupt, and incompetent administration in history. Let's just call it that. And let's not let MAGA try to wiggle their way out of anything else. That is what this is. And we are going to continue to call it out every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.